Your story is not about growing old. On the contrary, it is about regaining your sacred roots, your pure self. The immense power and authenticity that the universe has given you now shines in your eyes and in your smile. While people are struggling to understand this transformation, you are getting closer and closer to yourself and your divine identity. Write 111 in the comments now, because the chosen ones do not bow to time. They bend time and return to their essence. Imagine being the only candle burning in a room that everyone else swears is already filled with sunlight. While the crowd is content to sit in what they believe is daylight, you feel the quiet call to light your own flame and walk into a corner they've never bothered to explore. You're not trying to outshine anyone. You're just answering a deeper pull, a nudge from God that says, "Step over here. I have something to show you." There's a special kind of courage needed for this walk. Most people stick to the main road, where the traffic is steady and the landmarks are well known. But your heart was tuned to a different signal. It's as if you were handed a map only you could read. A map inked with invisible lines and crossroads that only reveal themselves one faithful step at a time. As you moved forward, the space between you and the crowd widened. Sometimes it happened quietly, a missed invitation here, a lukewarm greeting there. Sometimes the separation was louder, questions about your choices, skepticism in their eyes, little jokes about you always being different. But you learned something powerful. When God sets you apart, it's not to isolate you, but to elevate you. That feeling of not fitting in wasn't a punishment. It was the beginning of a calling. It's like you've been given a rare, ancient lamp, while everyone else is dazzled by city lights that flicker and fade. While the world is caught up in the rush of traffic and the latest headlines, you find yourself in the back room, polishing that lamp, tending to the flame no one else bothers to notice. Others are drawn to noise and spectacle, but you know that real light, the kind that lasts through storms and power outages, comes from tending what's hidden, what's sacred, what's steady. The crowd wonders where you disappear to when the party's at its loudest. They see you slip away from the table, miss your laugh in the group photo, and sometimes whisper that you're just not interested in having fun. But deep in your spirit, you know the truth. You're busy working with eternity while they're busy chasing moments. You've learned that some of the greatest breakthroughs happen not in the spotlight, but in the prayer closet, in the quiet hour before dawn, when only you and God are awake. While others scramble for applause, counting likes and measuring themselves by trends, you're investing in the kind of harvest that only heaven keeps track of. Your hands might look empty to the world, but you know what you're carrying. Seeds of purpose, hope, and healing, sown in faith and watered by every tear nobody else saw. The things you're growing in private will one day be the shelter and the shade for generations who never knew your name, but live in the blessing you prepared. You might sometimes feel invisible, overlooked, or misunderstood, like a farmer who tends the fields while the crowd walks by, too busy to notice what's taking root beneath their feet. But you keep showing up, day after day, because you trust that the harvest is coming. You know the value of quiet seasons, the worth of preparation, the miracle hidden in persistence. God sees every moment you spend nurturing what's holy, every sacrifice made for a vision only you and heaven understand. People ask why you don't join every celebration, why you spend so much time in reflection, why you seem content without the world's approval. But your spirit is anchored in a deeper river. You're not moved by trends because you're rooted in truth. You're not swept away by applause because you know the one whose opinion truly matters. You've learned to celebrate in the silence, to rejoice in the unseen, to find joy in knowing that what you're building is timeless. Every step you took along that quieter trail wasn't just a step away from the familiar. It was a step toward becoming who you were truly meant to be. And let's be honest, there's a cost. You've felt the sting of misunderstanding, the ache of missing old friends, and the weight of carrying truths nobody else wants to talk about. You've watched as others bonded over shallow things, while your soul longed for deeper water. But in every lonely season, there was a hidden blessing. The distance gave you room to hear the whisper of the Holy Spirit. The silence became a sanctuary where your real self could finally breathe. Every time you felt set apart, you discovered new strength. Every moment you spent misunderstood, you grew roots that went deeper than the storms of life could ever reach. The world celebrates what's easy to see: crowds, noise, trends, instant results. But God does His best work in secret places. Just like a mighty oak starts as a seed hidden underground, your journey started in quiet places, away from the spotlight. While others built castles out of sand, you learned to anchor your life on the solid rock of faith. When you walk this path, the applause is faint, but the promise is eternal. People might ask, why go against the grain? Why walk alone? But deep inside, you know the answer. It's because you've tasted something real, something sweeter and stronger than anything the world can offer. You've glimpsed a vision for your life that's bigger than comfort, bigger than conformity. You know you're not wandering by accident. You're being led on purpose. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now, share your blessings to glorify His kingdom. For you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. So if you find yourself on the outskirts, far from the crowd, don't let discouragement settle in your bones. Remember that the shepherd always goes after the one that's wandered off, not because it's lost, but because it's precious. God never wastes a journey, and every mile walked in faith becomes a testimony that can light the way for someone else. You're not just different for the sake of being different. You're marked, set apart, and handpicked for a work only you can do. The very distance that once made you ache is now the space where your gifts have room to grow. Where others saw emptiness, God planted vision. Where you felt overlooked, heaven was writing your name in bold letters. What looked like separation was really preparation. What felt like loneliness was divine positioning. And what others thought was just your oddness was really your anointing shining through. Keep tending that inner fire. Keep walking that uncommon road, because the harvest coming from your obedience is going to bless not just you, but every life your story touches. If you ever wonder whether it's worth it, just remember this: the world doesn't need more of the same. It needs the light that only you can bring. Keep going, chosen one. The very path that set you apart is the same one that will set you above. And when your light finally shines for all to see, they'll realize the room was never as bright as they thought it was, until you carried your candle into the corner no one else could reach. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. It's a little like being the only bird awake just before dawn, singing into the darkness while the whole world still sleeps. You feel a stirring in the air that nobody else notices, a gentle, holy breeze that whispers of rain long before a single cloud is in sight. Others go about their business as if it will always be sunny, planning their days and dancing to music you can barely hear. But deep in your soul, you sense the change in the wind, the silent approach of something big, something sacred. There you are, standing on the porch of your spirit, peering out over the horizon while everyone else is inside, laughing at the warmth of their own fires. You see the shadows begin to stretch just a little differently, catch a glimpse of light, bending at a new angle, and it tugs at your heart in ways you can't explain. It's a holy knowing, a nudge that doesn't come with thunder, but with the gentle certainty of truth rising up inside you. You try to share what you see. Maybe you tell a friend. Maybe you raise your voice at the family table. Maybe you just drop hints, hoping someone else feels what you feel. But most of the time, you're met with blank stares or polite nods. There they go again, they say, always thinking too much, always reading between lines nobody else can see. It's as if your spirit is tuned to a frequency that hasn't hit the rest of their radios yet. You're speaking a language of the heart, while the world answers in logic and routine. And so your warnings often echo back to you, unheard. Your concern becomes a quiet ache, and you start to wonder if maybe you really are the only one who senses what's coming. The laughter in the room grows louder, not to include you, but to drown out the song you're singing. Your caution, instead of being welcomed as wisdom, is brushed off like a stubborn cloud on a summer day. It's lonely to stand on that edge, waving your arms, hoping to catch someone's attention, only to realize that the crowd isn't looking for a sign. They're looking for reassurance. Yet, even as the world keeps spinning in its old familiar groove, you hold on to that inner certainty, like a lighthouse keeper faithfully tending the flame through the longest night. You keep watching, you keep feeling, you keep standing. Because somewhere deep inside, you know the truth. God doesn't reveal things to waste them. The stirring in your soul isn't a mistake, it's a calling. You are marked not just for insight, but for endurance. The gift of seeing the unseen comes bundled with the burden of being misunderstood. But that's all right, because every great story in Scripture starts with someone who was willing to hear God's whisper before the trumpet ever sounded. Every breakthrough began with a person who noticed what others missed and had the courage to keep believing, even when they stood alone. So if you find yourself on the edge, feeling that trembling under your feet, don't shrink back. The world may not be ready to hear it yet, but your faithfulness in the silence is planting seeds for the harvest that's coming. One day, the storm you saw on the horizon will break, and when it does, the same voices that doubted will turn and look for your light. Keep singing, even if it's just you and the sunrise. Keep standing, even when the ground shakes and the crowd keeps dancing. For the chosen ones, the reward is not just in being right, it's in being faithful to what you know, trusting that God placed you here, with eyes wide open for such a time as this. It's kind of like walking through an old house at night with a lantern, while everyone else is content to sit in a bright room with the shades pulled tight. Most folks are satisfied just seeing what's in front of them. Their world is made of what's obvious and comfortable. But your spirit, chosen one, is wired to look for what lies in the shadows, to listen for the whispers that don't always reach the ear. You're the one drawn to the door at the end of the hallway that nobody else even notices. Dear brothers and sisters, May God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. While others are happy with daylight and clear lines, you can sense a draft where there should be none. A soft shift in the air that tells you another story is unfolding, just out of sight. You know what it's like to feel something stirring, even when there's nothing to point at, nothing to prove. Some call it having an imagination, but in truth, it's a holy sensitivity, an antenna God placed deep inside you, tuned to pick up signals that ordinary eyes and ears will always miss. People might laugh and say you're dreaming, accuse you of making mountains out of molehills, but you know better. What the world calls make-believe is actually discernment in action. That quiet knowing in your gut, that gentle nudge on your heart, it's a gift. One that protects, one that prepares, one that points you toward open doors the world hasn't even built yet. It's a guidance system designed by heaven, one that operates best in the unseen. You're not content to just stay on the well-lit path. You're drawn to places others won't go, because you feel the Spirit moving there. You catch the ripple beneath the calm, the invitation that isn't spoken out loud, but felt by the soul. That's how you end up being the first to sense when change is coming, or when a blessing is on its way. You see the cracks in the walls before they widen, and you sense the healing rain before the clouds even form. That's not fantasy. That's favor. That's a calling. The world may never fully understand how you see what you see or feel what you feel, but that's all right. God never asks you to prove your gift. He just asks you to use it, to trust it, and to walk through the doors He opens, even if nobody else sees them yet. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. So keep carrying your lantern, keep trusting that subtle pull on your spirit, and don't let the crowd convince you that you're lost just because you're on a different frequency. Your discernment is a lifeline, a compass, a whisper from above. Where others see nothing but darkness, you carry a light that reveals the next step. Don't be afraid to walk ahead, even if you walk alone, because you're following a map drawn by the one who knows every hidden place and every hidden blessing. It's a lot like being the only one in the family willing to carry the heavy bucket from the well, while everyone else pretends there's nothing wrong with empty cups. This is a weight that's not measured in pounds, but in the pressure of what you know. The exhaustion you feel isn't from busy days or endless chores. It comes from holding living water in your spirit that nobody else dares to taste. You're walking around with a message that could quench their thirst, but folks would rather keep sipping from their old routines, convinced it's enough. Sometimes, being tuned in to what others won't admit is like standing outside the house when a storm is brewing, trying to warn everyone inside to close their windows while they laugh and tell you the sky is perfectly clear. You feel the tension in the air, sense the change coming, and your heart aches, not just from seeing it, but from knowing they don't want to hear it. That's a special kind of tired. It's the weariness that settles in your bones when you keep showing up, keep telling the truth, even when it shakes the foundation of the stories people tell themselves. When you bring out truth, real, spirit-led, uncomfortable truth. It's like flipping the light on in a room full of sleeping people. They don't thank you for it. They shield their eyes, grumble, and beg you to turn it off. Because sometimes, chosen one, the hardest thing a soul can do is wake up to something they've spent years avoiding. You aren't just repeating facts or stating what everyone already knows. You're carrying revelations that crack the surface of the comfortable and that can stir up resistance like nothing else. Challenging these deeply rooted beliefs doesn't just ruffle feathers, it can turn friends into strangers and gatherings into battlegrounds. Yet you keep going, because the call inside is louder than the criticism outside. Your fatigue is holy. It's the cost of being willing to hold what's heavy so others can someday live lighter. You're not just making conversation. You're inviting transformation. You're not trying to win arguments. You're hoping to open eyes. And even when it feels like you're the only one awake in a world that's lulled itself to sleep, you keep the lamp burning because you know someone, somewhere, is looking for the way home. So, don't despise that tired feeling. It's proof that you're doing sacred work. God sees every step you take, every word you speak, every moment you stand alone with the truth in your hands. The world may never fully understand why you refuse to settle for less, but heaven applauds the courage it takes to hold the truth even when it's heavy and carry it forward even when the road is long. Reflect on all the moments you pointed out a hidden danger, only to be met with laughter or dismissal. Time and again, your unlikely suspicions materialized into reality. Those same doubters rarely circled back to give credit where it was due, often clinging to explanations that allowed them to maintain their worldview rather than admit you saw something they missed. This tendency to shield themselves is not coincidence. There are mechanisms within people, sometimes subtle, sometimes fierce, that rise to defend against truth. To acknowledge your foresight would mean confronting the limits of their own perception and the discomfort of change. Many resist such revelations with all their might. Despite this, others of a similar spirit have begun to recognize the trail you've been blazing. While some pretended not to hear, there existed a quiet gathering of souls taking note of your resilience and your record of insight. For them, your strength in holding your ground, even in the face of public skepticism, became a silent testimony of wisdom that is rarely welcome before its time. They recognized that the gifts you carried, depth, sensitivity, the drive to seek meaning, were not defects, but signs of something vital. In hushed conversations and behind closed doors, your words took root. While the world's attention was fixed on the spectacle, your influence crept in through the unseen places, quietly shifting outcomes and opening minds. As the momentum built, a wave of clarity began rising up. Suddenly, truths long hidden were bubbling to the surface. The vindication you imagined would taste sweet revealed itself as something different. A deep ache for all the pain that might have been avoided had your wisdom been heeded. The joy of being proven right is tempered by compassion for those now forced to awaken in discomfort. You have been shaped by the fires of experience, and the remnants of old battles have become reminders of both your endurance and your evolution. The very forces meant to hinder you were secretly molding you into someone who could withstand and transform adversity. You learned to draw from reservoirs of strength that only reveal themselves in hardship. What you faced was more than simple disagreement. It was a campaign to silence the song only you could sing. Each attempt to undermine your confidence became another layer of protection, another opportunity to purify your intention and rely on what is true. Isolation deepened your connection to the source of your insight, carving out an inner sanctuary that could not be breached. As you look back now, patterns come into focus. Those who most fiercely resisted your warnings often found themselves caught in the very snares you described. Where relationships once stood as fortresses against your insight, many have since fallen in the very ways you foretold. In contrast, those who trusted your discernment have found themselves shielded from needless harm and disappointment. Yet your real legacy isn't in grand gestures or public declarations. It's in the small mercies, the quiet advice, the gentle nudges that led others towards safety and peace. Even when the recipients of your guidance did not realize it, your presence steered them clear of storms that could have wrecked their journey. There came a time when everything you knew seemed to unravel. Support vanished, opportunities withered, and you were left with nothing but your conviction. In that void, every attachment that did not serve your higher calling fell away. It was a sacred refining, a breaking down of all that was not anchored in truth, until only the essential remained. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the Super Thank You button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially, far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Your willingness to voice what needed to be said, even when others recoiled, pushed many away, but also created space for the core of who you are to grow strong and steady. Denied outside affirmation, you learn to draw directly from an inner well. That period of darkness became a birthplace for unwavering courage, a fortress built on nothing but faith. The impact you've made is far greater than you realize. Each encounter, each word spoken in earnest, scattered seeds into soil you could not see. These seeds have been growing beneath the surface, sending out unseen roots that link hearts and minds. Today, your influence moves through people and places you may never meet, shaping outcomes in ways both subtle and profound. All of these hidden shifts are moving toward a moment of revelation. The fruits of your perseverance will become visible as those whose lives have been touched by your counsel come to realize the depth of your contribution. Your legacy is not a monument for others to admire. It is a living force that changes the world, one decision, one heart at a time. Wherever resistance once stood, the steady trickle of your influence has worn away obstacles and opened new passages for truth to flow. Your steadfastness has become a channel for change, carving out a path for others to follow. As these shifts become impossible to ignore, you will witness the world finally arriving at a destination you have long anticipated. In the aftermath of this transformation, confusion and fear will abound for many. Yet you will find peace, knowing that your struggle was not in vain. This is the moment for which you were prepared, not simply to witness the change, but to guide those who find themselves lost in the new landscape. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Gifts once considered burdens now stand as rare and precious strengths. The world at last is ready to value the insights and abilities that set you apart. Where there was once doubt, there is now a need for the very qualities you carried quietly for so long. The journey to this place has always been about more than personal vindication. It has been about building the future, brick by brick, choice by choice. You are not just a witness to the coming dawn. You are one of its architects, forging new possibilities for all who come after. The era of waiting is over. Now is the time to live the vision that has lived in you all along.